Oh. Hmm? Yeah. All right, we are live, and today we're talking about DLMMing with Geek Lad, who is a member of the Goose DAO and also in charge of doing LP Army boot camps and all sorts. So welcome. Thanks for coming to share your tips and tricks. We'll take questions today as well. And I will quickly just show you some specs on the man. But how are you, Geek Lad?
I'm good. How are you, Seb?
I am good. I am good. So this is your instructor piece here, but I guess a good way to think of yourself is you do DLMMing in more of a low risk, risk averse way. So you've got more meaningful strategies as opposed to just degenning, hope you do well, or degenning, lose 30%. You're a bit more calculated in your risk taking. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't had a whole lot of luck doing just jumping in on new memes. I've tried it. I've done it a number of times. I seem to get burned more often than make big wins. There's a lot of guys in the Goose DAO that do it exceedingly well. I'm not one of those guys. But then there's also other folks in the Goose DAO that have developed this sort of this more, I guess, a good strategy for managing risk, and you can still get some decent gains out of it. But of course, with that risk management comes lower rewards, but it's still pretty meaningful rewards from my point of view. So
nice. Well, I think the first question people are going to have, just to fill them in, can you explain what Goose DAO is?
yeah.
This is
Yeah,
their
so this
Twitter.
now this we're sort of a sub community that spawned out of the Meteora community. So we were all very active in the Meteora Discord server, and one day Ewan, he's one of the I guess he's one of the founding fathers of the Goose DAO. Almost as a joke, he just started sending these NFTs to people who are active in the Meteor server. These little Goose NFTs, and then out of it, kind of was born this movement where we spun off our own Discord server, and we became very active in both the Meteor Discord server as well as the Goose DAO server. And it's very much PPP. I mean, player pump player. Everybody's helping everybody all the time. People are making calls on new potential coins to DLMM on, and people will DLMM live with each other. And when somebody finds a good opportunity, and if other people are piling in, they'll say, "Hey, I'm in on this market." They'll provide the link to the DLMM that they're in. And the other nice thing about that is that it'll create more liquidity pretty quickly in brand new markets. And so a lot of these new meme tokens that come out, the Goose DAO will spin up a new market, and they'll start stealing volume from Radium and earning really, really good fees doing it with concentrated liquidity, versus the Radium pools. They're just regular AMMs, so the liquidity isn't concentrated, and they're not going to be earning as much fees. And so we'll steal a lot of the volume and a lot of the fees with it. And yeah, it's been great. It's a lot of fun. Really, really great group of people. They're very selective about membership. So it's not everybody can become a Goose DAO member. As you know, Seb, I know you've been wanting to become a member, and you were recently indoctrinated. And so, yeah, now we've got this this Git book that has some really good information about the DAO. If you guys go to the Goose DAO Twitter, you can you'll see a link to this Git book. Kind of explains who we are, what we do, how to join, and we're capping membership to 100 members. So I think right now, I think we're like 50 something like that. So we've still got some room to grow. But we want to keep the community small because it's more manageable that way. You tend to have more active members that way, and so it's we're a pretty tight knit group and a great group of folks there.
Yeah, I'm very new to it. I've been very busy in the past since February with Jupiter stuff, and Meteor has actually been more of my passion, but I just didn't always have the bandwidth, and it takes a lot more learning than anything else that I've encountered. So now, kind of diving in straight in. And I guess, look, I mean, 100 people is pretty small, of course, but it's, I guess, it's better to be selective. Otherwise it gets too noisy.
Yep.
Remember the Boogles? There are 100 people or 100 different NFTs, and it works better like that.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, well, I mean, before we talk about just DLMMing and your strategies, did you want to give us a bit of history or anything you wanted to share in terms of like how well you've been doing in terms of gains or whatever if you've got any viewpoints on the M3 program, any of that kind of stuff that you'd like to share, any stuff that I may have missed that you'll probably be right all over, like white on rice?
Sure. Should we start back all the way to my history in DeFi, or should we go fast forward more to like kind of more current day?
I think if you start with your history in DeFi, because then
Okay.
we might be able to see what you like from the previous DeFi
Yeah.
days to what's going on now.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So I started in crypto, I guess it was in earnest about 2017. I did fool around with it a bit in the early days with Mount Gox. I don't know how many folks have been around long enough to remember Mount Gox, but that was one of the first centralized exchanges that went defunct. And but I was always kind of fascinated with the idea of arbitrage, printing money, kind of making something from nothing, and so after Mount Gox, I guess a few years maybe had passed. In earnest, I started in 2017 with GPU mining, back when Ethereum was still proof of work. So I bought a video card. I started, printing Ethereum with it. It was actually Bitcoin because I was on a platform called NiceHash, and they actually paid you in Bitcoin, even though you were really, doing the Ethereum hash algorithm. And so I took that and I put it right back on the Ethereum blockchain. And then I started playing with different protocols on Ethereum. So I was using Uniswap, of course. I was using DYDX, 1inch. And I was just really fascinated by DeFi in general. It was just so cool that you could perform lending activities, swapping activities, all of that sort of stuff you could do in a non-custodial fashion, right? Nobody owns it. It's all happening on the blockchain. It's all happening with smart contracts. And I was just absolutely fascinated by the technology. I thought it was freaking awesome. And so I got some airdrops from that, which was cool. It was like free money. So it was like, so I never put any of my own money other than having bought the video cards to do the mining. And then from there, I just kind of reinvested whatever I got. I withdrew enough to pay my taxes. I do pay my taxes, and then put the rest of it, or left the rest of it on the blockchain to keep fooling around with all these different protocols. Because it's fun to mess with all these different platforms and try different things. And so eventually Ethereum became way too expensive to transact on. And I was like, all right, I got to find another place to go. I got to find a new blockchain. And ergo Solana, right? So Solana was the place to go. And I went onto Solana, and and then I started, messing around with market making on Solana, doing swaps on Solana. And I remember, I'm going to see if I can find it actually. There was a post I put on Reddit. This was several years ago. And I was like, you know what? Solana needs a 1inch. And so I don't know if you guys are familiar with 1inch or not, but basically 1inch was a routing protocol, very much like Jupiter on Solana. And I remember posting this, and I think I'm slowing down here because I'm opening a new tab. Let's see. And here it is.
You'll have to share your screen again.
Yeah. So I posted this. This was 4 years ago. I posted this. So this was like 21, I guess, 2021, 2020,
Yeah.
around that time. And Step Financing was actually working on a routing protocol, but Jupiter didn't even exist yet. Jupiter was yet, just a glimmer in Meow and Ben Chow's eye at this time, probably. And it was kind of funny, some of the responses I got on this. Some people agreed, and then some people are like, no, why do you need this? And I saw a huge need for a routing protocol on Solana. And so I kind of foresaw Jupiter even before it existed. And then when Jupiter came along, I kept waiting for them to release an SDK, because again, I was always fascinated with creating something from nothing, and I wanted to do arbitrage on Solana. I saw a really good opportunity to do it. I just really didn't have a good platform, a good SDK to do it, a software development kit. And then Jupiter released their SDK, and then that's what I did. I built an arbitrage bot with the Jupiter SDK. Did pretty well with it. Made probably a few $1,000s out of nothing. It's like, and I did a lot of volume, and I ended up doing like about $1 million of volume on Jupiter with the bot. And so of course I got a nice airdrop on Jupiter. And so again, it just kind of, this thing has just kind of been snowballing over the years. And so I took my Jupiter, I staked it, I've voted in everything that that the DAO has put out there. Really bullish on Jupiter. I love it. It's an amazing product. They continue to innovate, create new products. And when they were releasing the token, I saw the platform that they were launching on, Meteora, and that's how I ended up landing in Meteora. And I was like, wow, this platform is fantastic. I had used Orca, I had used Radium, but the idea of one-sided liquidity, the idea of the different strategies, bid ask curve, spot, I thought was absolutely incredible. And so that's how I ended up in Meteora. And then one day I was in one of the office hours. Ben Chow would have office hours every weekend. People would come on, ask questions. So I came on and just kind of, Ben let me share my screen and kind of show some of the things I was doing, and welcomed me with open arms. The community is just an absolutely amazing community, the Meteora community. And one thing that I saw that was lacking was sort of education of how to market make on the blockchain. Like, a lot of people weren't familiar with it. They didn't know how to do it. So, I threw out the idea of coming up with a boot camp, Meteora boot camp, really teach people how to provide liquidity on the Meteora platform. And it's really taken off, and it's been great. And then Heavy Metal Cook came along, and he's sort of taken the reins now with the boot camp, and he's running with it, and just doing an absolute amazing job with it. And I'm not part of the Meteor team. A lot of people think I'm part of the Meteor team, but I'm just a community member, just like other folks. And I'm just really passionate about the platform and the community, and teaching others how to use the platform and become profitable on the platform. So, and that's what I hope to do a little bit here today with some of your viewers and listeners, is kind of teach them a little bit of how to do some market making on Meteora.
Yeah, 100%. It would be wonderful. One thing is, I've done tutorials, and then after that, some people have followed them, and people in Discord say I found Meteor because I watched this tutorial, but too many people find it quite difficult. So that unfortunately led to, product market fit in something like fee printers, which the person then rugged. So I want to make very, very clear that there is product market fit for someone to take funds and will do this well, but just don't go down that route. It's easier if we just watch these lessons and just start dabbling, because I could go through Twitter in 1 hour and find like 20 posts where people are printing. And when meme coins come out, we all know there's thousands a week, tens of thousands a week, and most of them will go up and down and just gone out of existence.
Yep.
So I feel that Meteora is like one, it's very helpful to Solana. Two, it's very helpful to meme coins. And three, if you know, I don't know what your win ratio is or what you think the win ratio will need to be, but maybe if it's 60 or 70% of the time you're winning decently, then you can have some losses and still be making very good profit and actually helping the space. You know, you're providing liquidity, you're doing a service.
Yep.
You can buy and sell the coin in a liquidity pool. You're not actually dumping on anybody. You're just literally just printing fees.
Yep.
So yeah, with that in mind, I would love for you just to take us through a couple of strategies and
Sure.
yeah, go from there.
All right, sounds good. Let me share my screen here. And let me know if you can see that.
We can see your screen. Yep.
Okay, great. So I this is a relatively new wallet. So at the end of the year, I started unwinding positions. I wanted to get sort of a clean start for 2025. And so I transferred most of the assets that I had in market making positions and lending positions and in tokens, and decided to kind of start fresh this year. One token that I've been market making quite a bit on is JLP, and I had been doing JLP USDC, and there's another project called Hummingbot, and they've been around for quite a while. It's actually a market making platform for designed for centralized exchanges as well as decentralized, and it runs on Python. And I befriended the founder, Michael Fang, and he kind of turned me on to JLP Sol. I had the good fortune to actually meet him in person. He was down in Miami for a conference. I'm located in South Florida, in Fort Lauderdale area, not far from Miami. And so he turned me on to JLP Sol. And the great thing about JLP Sol is that they're very highly correlated pairs. It's a very highly correlated pair, so there's not a lot of impermanent loss there. So they tend to kind of move together, but there's still enough volume that it's a good token to provide liquidity on. So the position I have here, you can see I've got a good amount of my liquidity in here. And right now, so I started actually this position two-sided, and it actually almost went out of range yesterday when Sol pumped. So it's kind of interesting. This one is a little bit counterintuitive, because when Sol pumps, the price of JLP actually is dropping, right? So and really that can be the case for a lot of tokens that are paired with Sol that aren't necessarily correlated with it. If Sol pumps, then you end up with nothing but the token, right? So the same with JLP is as Sol is pumping, I'm gonna be, essentially all of the swaps going out of my position are gonna convert my Sol over to JLP. So that's what's been happening over the past few days, and it actually got pretty close to coming out of range, but it's kind of bounced back as Sol has dropped. But if you look at the chart on this one, you'll see it tends to oscillate pretty well and kind of stay within a certain range. And I'm going to switch to all pairs so that we can see it. So of course, JLP itself versus USD, this is versus USD, has been going up because Sol has been going up as well. If we go back to like November, right, when the US election took place, you'll see like a really big pump there. Let me see if I go back by a month. We can get back to November. Yeah, so this was around the time of the election, right? So when JLP really pumped. But if you look at it versus Sol,
and just quickly, if someone doesn't know what the JLP token is, there's a video on the Jupiter Exchange YouTube channel. But essentially, it's a token, like a liquidity providing token, which basically it gets 75% of all of the Jupiter perps fees, and then it also has a massive amount, like I can't remember, 30 or something % Sol, and then it's got some ETH, BTC, USDC, USDT, And so it just grows as the value of those assets go up, in addition to accumulating fees. So it's been one of the most like highest performing assets in recent times.
Yeah. And if you go to jupe.ag and then go to perps and then go to earn, you'll see the allocation that Seb's talking about, right? So it's 46% Sol, 10% ETH, 11% Bitcoin, and 26% USDC and 6% USDT. So it's basically like almost like an exchange traded fund for these different assets. So if you combine all these assets with these weightings, you should get pretty much spot on with the price of what JLP is doing. And so if you look at JLP versus Sol, back in November with the election, right? So the price of JLP started dropping versus Sol, but you can see it kind of topped out around I guess closer to the end of November, and then it's just kind of ranged a bit. Well, it did kind of start coming back up, right? Which means that's when Sol was sort of retreating, and since December, it's kind of ranged a bit, right? So we kind of went up a bit and we came down. And oh, by the way, if you're wondering what the hell this indicator is over here, you guys may have or may not have seen this before. This is the volume price visible range. So basically what happens is, for whatever price range you're looking at, it shows you a histogram of how much volume took place at that price, right? So you can see for this range that I'm looking at right here, the majority of the price action was, or the majority of the volume was happening around this price here. So I like to use this indicator when I'm looking at providing liquidity. It kind of gives you a good idea where a lot of trades have been happening. So you can see here, when I go back to, like, say, here, let's go back to like the beginning of November. You can see there was a lot of volume around this price, and now later on there was a lot of volume up here. So kind of just shows you where the volume is, which is good for market making, right? So if you want to know, all right, where do I want to provide my liquidity? What ranges do I want to provide liquidity in? Volume profile visible range is great for that. So if I look back to maybe like around the middle of December, and remember we're looking at JLP versus Sol, we're just ranging here, right? So this is a great type of market to provide liquidity in, and you can see we've gotten the most volume around this price. So and then you can zoom in further, right? And then you get a better idea. So here's where Sol started pumping again, right, at the beginning of the year. So you see JLP, the price of JLP is just dropping versus Sol, and now it's starting to kind of even out again, right? So we're kind of ranging a bit now. So what I did was, when I opened this position, I kind of looked at the chart. I decided, all right, what's a good range for me to provide liquidity? And I was like 50-50. I ended up basically through the DLMM swapping out half of my liquidity over for Sol, and then I put it in this range. So from about 0.0201 to 0.0230. So if we look where that is, let's do this. I'm going to draw horizontal line, and then I'm going to copy this price, and then I'm going to paste the price and the coordinates here. So there's my lower end of my range, right? And you can see I did pretty good, right? It did kind of dip into that and went out of range just for a little bit, I think like a couple of days ago. But I kept the position there. I kept the liquidity there, and it ranged right back into price, into my range. I didn't think that Sol was going to keep pumping, and it didn't. So I ended up back in range. And let's take a look at the upper end of my range here. So actually, I'm pretty far up here, right? So if we look back, remember I opened this position at around the beginning of the year. So I was looking back into December to see kind of where like the high points were where there was resistance, right? So if we zoom out further, you can see there was pretty good resistance around this level, and then down here is kind of where I had seen resistance in the past, right? So again, I wouldn't have seen that part of the chart from January. I would have been looking back in time here. So you can see like it kind of touched here, and then it retraced a bit, and then came up here, kind of touched again, retraced. So you can see it was definitely seeing resistance here. So now that resistance becomes support. So when I open my position, I was like, all right, it's now that resistance level is going to become a support level. And you can see indeed it has, right? It's been a really good support level. So I'm going to keep this position open. I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to let it keep ranging. So, I've gotten about $80 in fees. Let's see how old this position is. I think I opened it January 1st.
This is quite a, this is something that you'll be inclined to keep open for like days or weeks?
I think weeks, probably as long as I can, right? Until I see like if Sol like really dumps, then that means that the price of JLP is gonna go high versus it. So I'll end up with a bunch of Sol. Then at that point, I may have to rebalance it. So, but yeah, the idea is I'm gonna stay in this position as long as I can. If I could stay in this position for a month, that would be amazing, and I'll get some good fees over that period of time. So let's see, we open this.
So you're earning about 0.1% per day. So you'd earn 3% approximately in a month.
Yeah, let's see. I opened it 3 days ago. So let's see what time.
I can calculate it over here.
Okay. And actually, I only had about half of the liquidity that I have in here now. So most of those fees were printed with about 14 to 15,000. I had another position where I was more actively managing it. So I was in lower bin step pools with about half of my liquidity, and I don't know. I got kind of tired of having to open and close new positions, and I got lazy. I'm like, you know what? Let me just put all of the liquidity in this one position. I know it's not going to print as much fees, but I don't have to manage it as closely. So it's really about half the liquidity generated these fees. So what does that come to? 84 on 15,000. So it's about half a percent per day, which is pretty good. Oh
Okay.
wait, no, that's over the whole period. Hold on. So it'd be like a third of that. So yeah, about 16 bips per day, 16 basis points per day. So
we've got this comment here that's not real, like a good return on 30K investment. And I guess, I mean, you're more risk averse, trying to keep things safe.
Yeah.
I can see your thesis here.
Yeah.
So
that, let's see, 1.16, if we compound that annually, it's about 79% annually. So yeah, what I'm doing is like my largest bags, I'm going to be conservative and put them in here. And then I can either compound it here or take it and put it into other positions. So that's kind of what I've been doing with JLP Sol. And I've got other positions here that are a bit more risk, right? So a bunch of meme coins here. And so these memes tend to be high volume. And so high volume and higher volatility. And so these will give better returns. And what I do to manage my risk here is sort of a variant on what I call like the toothpaste strategy or the doorstop strategy. But the basic concept is that you have some position that's close to the current price where you think is where you hope it'll continue to range, and then down below it I'll put a bid ask to sort of catch it if it makes a big dump, if it makes a big drop. So like for instance, let's look at swarms here.
Just while you're opening that, Geek Lad, can you see this question on the screen? Or would you? Well, actually, I'll read it to you. Would you get volume running a higher fee pool for JLP? My guess is there's too much liquidity at the lower fee, so you you needed to go in that 0.2% rate, like fee pool, in order for it to actually get sufficient volume?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the reason I went into this in this pool was because of the range that I was looking at. So ideally, whatever range you're interested in providing liquidity, you want to try to find a bin step that is more or less going to match that. So if I go to create a new empty position here, you can see that with this particular bin step, it'll give me minus 6.5% all the way up to plus 7%. So, and if you look at the range where I'm in 69 bins here, and that's where I landed. So that's really the only reason I picked this range, was because that was sort of the range of prices where I saw the support and the resistance, and that was the pool with the bin step that sort of matched that range. So, but if I was interested in providing more concentrated liquidity, which I was doing, here, let's do this. Let's go.
Like, so the fee you're paying, what is, okay, so there's actually pools that are only charging 0.02%, and you're in a pool with 0.2%.
Yes.
Okay, so you're towards the higher end.
I'm on the higher end. That's right, because I'm at a wider range. So typically speaking, if you're looking at lower fee pools, they're also going to have lower bin steps, but they're gonna grab more volume relative to the amount of liquidity in there. So you can see the pool that I'm in has a lot of volume. Has a lot of total value locked, almost 1 million, and it only did about 250,000 in volume. But if you look at this pool has much less liquidity, and it actually has done more volume. So it's actually capturing more volume relative to the amount of liquidity locked, but they're also receiving a lower fee. So
And you're not, this certainly not set it and forget. You have to monitor that position.
yes, exactly.
Actively.
And I was in this pool. So let's take a look at this pool. We can see how much I was earning in fees. So this was where I had the other 15,000 in before. So you can see I generated a lot more fees, but of course there was also a lot more impermanent loss, because if it went up out of range, so I got to think about which way you guys are facing. So if it went up out of range, then all of that JLP became SOL, right? And then I have impermanent loss, and then I've got a big bag of SOL versus a bag of JLP. And so when SOL was dumping, the price of JLP relative to SOL was going up, and so then I'd be left with a big bag of SOL, and I would have some impermanent loss there. Right. And then I had to be more active in managing my liquidity when I was in this pool. So you can see, if like default 69 bin range for a 5 bin step pool will give you minus about 1.7% all the way up to plus 1.7%. So
Gotcha.
this would give you a narrower range of liquidity, but then you're exposed to more impermanent loss. So I did when I started to see how much impermanent loss I was getting when SOL started pumping. Then I was like, you know what, maybe I should go into a wider range. And then I decided, you know what, I'm kind of sick of dealing with this all the time. I'm gonna go into the 20 bin step. So, but yeah, if at some point, if I feel like being more active again with SOL JLP, I might go into a lower bin step pool like this one. This was a pretty good one, and it's funny because actually, here, let's look at the chart, because you'll be able to see. I'm going to use Deck Screener this time. You'll be able to see where I started providing liquidity, because there was almost no volume in the pool, and I actually brought the pool back to life, and then other people started bringing in liquidity. I think it was this one. No. It wasn't this.
One quick
Here
question.
it was, right here.
That the fee that you just showed, $237 or whatever, that's your cut after Meteora has taken the 5% of the fee?
That's correct. Yeah, that's after the protocol fees. Yeah.
Okay, so Polo D Kid, the Meteora's fees 5%, and whatever fees you get, that's yours. Everything's routed to them on the fees that are earned 5% beforehand.
That's right.
Cool.
So yeah, you can see here where the volume jumped up right here. This was when I brought in my 15,000 of liquidity. So I think prior to that, there wasn't a lot of liquidity in the pool. It was maybe like 1,000 or something. And then I brought my liquidity in, and then I went out of range here. So you can see the volume dropped again. And then I, because I went to sleep. And when I woke back up, I brought the liquidity back in range, and then volume jumped up here again. I think maybe around here is when I decided, you know what, let me just go to a different pool. So I had experimented with a few different pools with JLP. That was one of them. I think I went to an even lower bin step at one point. Let's see. JLP Sol. What was it? Did I go? I think I went all the way to the 1-1. Let me see.
And have you ever played in the Sol USDC pool?
I did. I was in there for a while. It was actually pretty good. I was almost like range trading it through the DLMM. Here it is. I think I was in here for a little while. And so Sol USDC, you can do the same thing. You can just kind of use it to range trade and actively manage your positions. Yeah. So I did print a little bit of fees in here. I was in here less time, but again, if you look at the chart, you'll be able to clearly see when I added and removed my liquidity, because the volume would have jumped up and then dropped off when I got in and out of the pool. So yeah, I really wasn't in here very long. It was just like maybe for.
Cool. Well, can we have a look at some of those?
Yeah.
Those other pools that you've got lower amounts in.
Yeah.
We do have a couple of people in comments aren't happy with the return, and I get it. The thing is, once at a certain stage, once you make capital, once you make some money, and I mean this is pretty impressive because Geek Lad has made he spent money on a GPU and then never again, So it's just like recycling. But in order to keep it there, the number of people that I know personally that have turned 40K into $1,000 by just betting on losers, there's too many. And so as you accumulate more, you'll want to start to put it into safer things. You have to be realistic. If you're earning 79% per year, as well as Met points, as well as learning a skill, that is freaking amazing. Especially if you had like 100 grand in there or something like that, you're earning 80,000 almost a year.
Yeah. You want to preserve your capital for sure.
It is. And just another thing, as people like when they have even bigger bags, they literally just preserve their capital by staking. They don't do anything because they don't want any extra risk. So this still has risk, just has lower risk. Meteora is obviously very trusted, well audited, etc. But yeah, these are printing far bigger fees. So tell us about them.
Yeah, so let's look at this one. So this is this started off as a one sold position, and so it's grown a decent amount. What's Sol at right now? 215. So probably about done about 10% on this position. This is I'm not sure how old this position is, or when I started doing this one was probably a day or two ago when I first opened this one. And so generally the idea that I do here is there's sort of two main positions, right? There's this top position, and this position is a spot. And so if you think about, I started with one Sol, and what I did is I took 10% of that, so 0.1 Sol, and I swapped 0.1 Sol immediately to swarms, right? So I just went to Jupiter, swapped 10% of what my total allocation for this, for all of my positions in swarms, and then I put half of that. Well, I put all of that, so 0.1 worth of Sol in swarms, and then another 0.1 worth of Sol in this position. in this position here, spot position. And basically what I try to do to decide where I'm going to put the spot is I'll go to the chart, and I'll go to Bird Eye and just pull up all markets.
Are you covering like how'd you even select this token?
So I actually think I might have found this one on the trending token list within Bird Eye actually. So I was, a lot of times I'll go to Dex Screener, and then I'll look for stuff in Dex Screener, and basically looking for high volume tokens with a decent market cap. So I don't like to go too low market cap of maybe 8 million and up, and want to see a lot of volume as well. So I think I was actually found it in here, in their little find gems section.
So you've got the pro membership, do you?
No. This is all basic membership. I have a login. I don't know if that gives me access to other stuff that's not in here. I'm not sure. And a few things that you want to see, right? You want to see high volume. You also want to see a lot of holders, right? So I would say I like to see at least 6,000-7,000. A lot of these that have 5,000, they'll end up pumping and then dumping. So you want to see, a higher number of holders. Like maybe this one might be okay. I don't know. We'd have to look at it, but 7,000 holders is pretty good. 16,000 holders, that's a good number. So you want to see a decent number of holders. You want to see good volume.
Did you mind just doing one live?
I guess we could. Here, let's look at this. Let's look at this alive and see what this or ale live. How old is this one? The other thing is I don't like to do anything that hasn't been out very long. So this one's been out more than a day. Oh, this is ranging nicely. So I think this one actually might be a decent one to get into. It's got a market cap higher than 8 million, which is good.
Do you like to see a certain amount of volume in the last hour or the last 30 minutes?
I guess it's definitely good to see like a few thousand in the last 5 minutes. I would say at least like if you can do like 10,000 in the last 100,000 in the last 5 minutes is good. 30 minutes we got 250,000. So this one, the volume on this is a little bit lower than what I like to see. Let's see. So 5 minutes. We're doing 1 million. Oh, this is good. Yeah, this has got some good volume. So I think this is one we could probably take a look at.
Well, it's more just kind of getting your reference points of what makes the cut. Because I think a lot of people need to know that first. And by the time I've spoken to maybe 10 people from the Goose DAO, done live streams with 10 people, we'll have like a big cross section, be able to mix and mash everyone's things for like a higher risk, lower risk.
Yeah. This one, see, so like down here, we're getting down kind of below that 8 million market cap level. So it's probably a little bit more risky than what I would generally do, but we can open a position here and see how it does. Let's check it out. I mean, it seems like it's gotten some good ranging.
I mean,
this is really great for
my wallet if you like.
Okay.
That way,
you want to do it and then share your screen and I'll walk you through it.
Yeah, that way, if it's a loser, then I lose. Cool. Let's just go have a look.
Let me see if the Goose DAO's in this token at all. I'm going to go into the Discord and see what the chatter is on this one. See if anyone's on this one right now.
So we have, this is the token here. And now you used okay, I have to sign in to do the indicator, so I won't do that right now, but that's okay. Then I need to go and get some. I also like to look at hawkfire.ag sometimes just to see what kind of. It's not a perfectly accurate thing, but it can help a little bit to work out, what is the fee in the last 24 hours, and what pools are kind of doing nicely. So like the 1% could be a nice pool as an example.
Yeah.
But let me grab the token address and go have a look in the pools.
All right, so we've got some pools there.
And
the other thing is I also like to get into where there's already a decent amount of liquidity. So that's good. We've got pools in here with a good amount of liquidity. So that's also kind of a good sign. So it means that there's people actively market making on this token. So go back to the chart and let's zoom out on the time frame. Okay, so it looks like we've kind of, you can sort of see a resistance point down there. Let's do this. So hover your mouse over to where the current price is, and then press actually I think it's just below that where the dotted red line is.
Oh yeah, sorry.
And then hold down your shift key and then click, and then start moving down. No, it didn't do it. Shift click, just a single click.
Shift click.
Yeah, it's not doing anything. Huh? That's weird.
I'll show.
Maybe
Maybe
because you're not logged in.
You can. Yeah. Do you want to show me on your screen?
Yeah.
And then once we've got what we want to go
the other
with.
thing, you know what? Hover over. So you see the little ruler icon on the left.
Yeah.
Hover over it. I want to see what the hotkey is for it. If you hover.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Shift and click on chart.
That's weird. I don't know why it's not.
Maybe I have to be logged in.
Yeah. All right. Well. Oh, there it goes. It did it that
Okay.
time. Hang on. Yeah. Try it again. Oh, maybe because you're too close to the bar. I don't know why. I don't know why it's grabbing. That's weird. There you go. Now shift click. Oh, yeah. When you get the crosshair, there you go.
Okay.
So wait till you get the crosshair, and yeah, okay, there you go. All right. So now we can see that's about a 28% drop. We could be even more conservative than that, Seb, and go down to where those wicks are on those red ones. Yeah, go down to like maybe around there. So like 40%. So I think a 20 bip pool. No, is it 20 bip? No, 1% pool. I think a 1% pool will take you all the way down to like minus 49% or something like that, 40 something percent. So I think a 100 bip pool might be good for this one.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna go get half here, half a soul, and then I don't have to stay in it for too long. It's just more about just seeing how what you.
All right.
What
So wait, hold on. So what's our total position size going to be? Half a soul?
Half a in total.
Or one
soul.
soul total. One soul total.
One soul total.
All right. So then let's do I want to do just 0.1 soul worth of iLive.
Okay. So like $22 or something.
Yeah, something like that. All right.
All right. Got that.
All right. So now let's go back to our chart and kind of get an idea of where the more recent ranging action has been. So yeah, you can go to 5 minute or 1 minute even. All right. And then let's zoom out to like, yeah. All right. So we see where our resistance is there. So what I would do is where we've kind of topped out, you could put the top of your range up there, or maybe even a little bit above that if you want, a little bit more room to grow if the price pumps. And then the bottom range, you could bring it up, yeah, like right around there. So So that's what we'll do for our spot, and then our bid ask, kind of our buffer, we're gonna go all the way down to the bottom. So we'll do the full range for that one.
But I
And
need to I need to have it in Sol, right?
yeah, and so
My bad.
yeah,
Okay.
that's all right.
All right, so I'm not going to be as fast. Give yourself a little bit of room. Cool. And something like that.
Yep.
All right, so this is there a way to copy this value here?
Yeah. If you right click, no, go back to the chart, like hover back over the chart. Yeah, so you can right click, but just make sure you don't have the finger icon. Yeah, the crosshairs. So yeah, like maybe just go above it. Yeah, right there, get the crosshair and then copy price.
Gotcha.
I don't know if it's gonna paste it right because I thought it had that that subscript, but we can try it. So let's see, we got a few hundred, we got 100 bips there, or 100, yeah, and then 100 bin step with a 2% fee. That one's actually grabbed a decent amount of volume. I don't know when it generated that volume. We could look at the chart specific to that pool. So yeah, so you can click on deck screener right there, and that'll give us the chart for this pool. It looks like it's still getting decent volume. So I think you could get some fees on this one. And what you can do is if the fees aren't working out so much for you on this one and you're not getting the volume, you could always go to the lower fee 100 bin step pool. But let's try this one. We'll open up a spot here. So just go ahead and put in all your A live and then put in 0.1 Sol. And then let's look for the range that we were looking at on the chart. Oops, yeah, you got to add the zeros.
Okay. 4 zeros, right?
I think, was it 4? Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. Annoying, but good to know.
Yeah.
And then we'll go here.
And then we got to add in our zeros.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
There we go. And then put in your 0.1 Sol. Oh, you know what? I think it's going to reset the price again. Yeah. So we got to do it again. You know what? Just grab the slider and then just remember more or less where we were.
That's okay. I can remember that this was 17%.
Okay.
17 or like 13? 13.
Maybe it's about 13, yeah.
Okay. So we're just doing 32 bins.
32 bins, yep. We're going to keep it tight.
Add liquidity. We'll see if this goes through, but I probably don't have enough. Do you have, this is probably a little bit too high for the fees.
That's high, yeah. I usually keep it lower than that. I put a bunch of zeros and then a 1. And then
we'll try this.
Yeah, and then your liquidity slippage, you'll probably want to bump that up. Maybe it'll be okay. Okay, cool. You got it.
What do you like to set this on?
I'll set it high, like especially if I'm in very volatile pools. You could set it to like 30% or something.
What does it actually mean? I mean, I understand swap slippage, but I'm not familiar with liquidity slippage.
Yeah, it's basically how much movement you're willing to allow for placing your liquidity before it, doesn't execute the transaction. So if the price were to move, like say you set a liquidity slippage of 1%, if the price moved down 1.1%, then the transaction will fail. So for purposes of providing liquidity, I usually don't worry too much about that. You do have to be careful with it if you're in like a pool that has no liquidity. You probably don't want to mess around too much with that, but it should be fine. And then, all right, so now we got our spot position, and now we're going to open a bid ask down below it. So with the remaining 0.8 Sol.
Add position.
Yep. And then you're going to put 0.8 Sol.
I need to go buy some more Sol. One moment.
Nope, that's not gonna give you enough.
Yes, okay, I got a little bit of USDC here. This is just a tutorial wallet, so it's not flush. It's flush with 100 tokens of minimal value. This should be pretty close to what we've got. I think
like we may need a little more.
Okay. All right. I don't want to sell. I'll sell a little bit of Pingu, but I'll come and grab it back.
Okay.
On another wallet.
All right. I should do it, I think. Let's see. All right. I think you're gonna have just enough. You're gonna have a little bit of soul left. So
all right.
All right, so we'll do 0.8 and then let's change the strategy to bid ask. There you go.
Now, do I have to do anything with this?
Nope.
Am I
so remember we wanted to be able to absorb a drop of about I think it was like 50%, right? 40 something percent if we do our measuring.
So that's where we go out to the 4-hour chart.
Yeah, let's go zoom out.
And then so now we've already moved down a bit, but you basically wanted to go, well, now it's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, that's okay. So you can see, yeah, so like 45% is going to put you right down where those wicks are. So I think that's pretty good.
So
so you can leave it default. If you want to bring it in a little bit, you can. Oh shoot, it's
1 second.
Yeah. And then do this. Go back up and just change it to like 0.081 and then just erase the 1 and then it'll reset or just do 0.08 again.
0.8 you mean?
Yeah, 0.8. There we go.
Okay.
All right, now it reset it for us. So you can bring it in a little bit if you want or
something like that
out there. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. I'm gonna need a little bit more gas, so I'm gonna have to go and get rid of 500 Pingu just for some extra gas.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, cool. So that's it. So generally the idea is with the first position, we've got a spot there to capture as much fees as we can. Hopefully it ranges in that range for a good while. If it pumps out, then you're okay. You can close the whole thing down and do it all over again. If the price comes down, then you're going to be accumulating more of it into a bid ask, and then hopefully you're also seeing a lot of volatility while it's coming down, and you're going to be generating some good fees. So that's the general idea. Is you want to protect your downside by getting into a position to acquire more of it at cheaply and generating fees the whole time you're doing that, and then you have a smaller portion of capital up at the top. So that way, if it does dump, really all you have at risk is kind of 0.2 SOL worth of liquidity that's gonna lose capital. But hopefully you get to a point where you accumulate enough and generate enough fees in the process of accumulating that overall you're going to be still in pretty decent shape.
Cool.
And this is still a pretty conservative strategy considering you're in a meme token. It's still fairly conservative. I mean, you're not going to get 50% gains or anything like that, but you could see probably 10% gains per day in a position like that. So one of the strategies, I think it was Lincoln Logging. He's another Goose DAO member. And he actually put together a really nice tutorial on this kind of strategy, not this specifically, but dealing with tokens like this, and also using bid ask to mitigate your risk. And I think, and then the idea is you'll do this with a lot of different tokens, so that way you sort of diversify your portfolio a bit. If any of one of them completely dump, you still got many others that are still gaining for you. And to your point earlier, Seb, make sure that your win ratio outpaces your loss ratio. So this is a pretty good intermediate strategy that's has more risk than what I was doing with JLP, but by the same token has better rewards. But I like the mitigation of the risk with this strategy. I think it tends to balance out pretty well, and I think in the end you'll probably see pretty good win rates doing this kind of thing.
So you're quite conservative, but like calculated. Do you ever just throw in 2 sol, 10 sol, or something into just a bit of a degen, just let it fly, or is that just not your strategy?
I do, and almost every time I do that, I lose.
Okay.
And because the hard thing is, it's anticipating, how bad the dump is going to be. And the challenge with it is that you want to get as close as you can to the dump to catch fees all the way down. And when you do it with a bid ask, right? You don't want to go in with a spot or do a swap. You go bid ask, so that way you get a decent, a better lower average purchase price, and then you flip it. So you remove the liquidity, put it back in as a bid ask. So now your bid ask is going back the other way, right? Because the price has moved down on you. But it seems like whenever I do that, the price never gets back up to where it was, or it just continues to dump down because I didn't set my range wide enough. Or I get distracted, I get a work call or something, and I forget about the position. I look back at it, and then it's gone. It's yeah. So
Goodness.
you really have to like watchdog this stuff when you're doing it and pay close attention and be ready to flip it. And just a lot of other guys in the Goose DAO are much better at doing that sort of thing than I am. So I've begun to resign myself to the fact that I'm not that good at that sort of stuff. So this other strategy that I've been doing lately, I think, has worked better for me. I did this kind of strategy in the past as well with like FWOG, and it worked out really, really well. I mean, FWOG was ranging in a decent range. It was seeing great volume, was generating really good fees. Graphane has been another really good one. In the past couple of weeks, I've been on Graphane, sort of doing this bid ask strategy, and it's worked out pretty well. So,
and you tend to like to do the token and sol with each of your LPs?
Do these against MSOL?
No, against sol. Like you don't really like USTC.
Yeah, no. Typically, I do them against Sol. Yeah, that's where the volume is on these.
Yeah, well, I mean, like this is there is certainly some ranges in here. You could definitely like, this is a bit of a top, right?
Yep.
And then you could accumulate. But from here to here, I'm not sure. We would have to calculate it, like what kind of if you can do that with 69 bins.
Yeah.
I have I would like to have a look at Pingu because I think Pingu's going to do really, really well. Very, very excited. So if we have a look at this chart, in fact, if you want to maybe share your screen, I'd like to know where you think, of course, just not financial advice, just general, like where you think we could put different bid asks to try and accumulate more, if we see a pattern. Like right now, you can see we're pushing out to all-time highs.
Yeah.
It is all-time highs. We really have to exclude the fact that the very beginning.
Yeah, we had that big dump.
Well, yeah, it was like freaking up. It was at a.
Yeah.
It was more valuable than freaking the United States or something crazy for like a short period of time, and all these poor people were buying it.
Yeah.
But now,
yeah, you're getting close to the all-time high.
Like even here, like buying it down here, boom, sell it up,
Yep.
and it's
you could try the same strategy that I just showed with Pingu, right? Buy some spot, put it up in the upper range, and then go with the bid ask. Now the only thing is, if it pumps, then you're gonna be out. So You do need to watch it, and when it pumps out of range, you have to sort of reset, close everything down, and do it all over again. But you can compound your fees and your gains, and just continue to do that.
Yeah, one thing is I don't think of it in terms of I'm putting in Pingu and I'm putting in Sol. I think of it in terms of putting $1,000 of US dollars.
Yeah,
Some of that goes into Sol, some of it goes into Pingu.
yeah,
If in the end that turns into $1,100, great.
yeah,
If just holding Pingu and Sol meant I would be up to $1,250, yeah, then it has impermanent loss, etc., etc. But if I think of it in terms of US value, that
yeah,
US dollar value, that always works well with me. It makes me sleep well at night. I have no
yeah,
issues.
yeah, yeah. I mean, one thing that you have to sort of put out of your mind is opportunity losses, right? Don't think about opportunity losses. Just if you've made a gain, you've made a gain, right? Don't think
Exactly.
about it in terms of opportunity loss. Yeah, I mean I kind of tend to have the same kind of philosophy. I think about it as it's just a bag of assets, and you want to make that bag bigger, and then that's it. As long as that bag's bigger at the end of the game, at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. So.
Mm.
And
Now, do you
as
have any
long as you're
top tip?
comfortable with your strategy getting there and it works for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any top tips? I'm guessing you only DLMM with one wallet at a time, just for better wallet management and keeping on top of positions, or how do you do it? You said you started in one wallet and then you rotated and you unwound and you moved to another wallet.
Yeah. So I had I had several different wallets that I was using last year. And then it's gotten, so for me it's really more for tax purposes that I moved everything into one wallet, because um it's there's so many transactions. I ended up having to hire a company to do my taxes, and they're charging me like $5,000 to do it. I think it's actually going to end up costing me more. And so I'm thinking about, when I file my taxes for this year, I'm just going to do all my I'm going to try to do all my transacting in this one wallet. And so I took a snapshot of the value at the beginning of the year. I'll take a snapshot of the value at the end of the year. Whatever the delta is, I'm just going to treat it as ordinary income. Like, it's because it's all short-term gains anyway. I'm not going to really hold anything in here long term. So from that perspective, it's just from a tracking perspective, I think it's easier to do that. So in the U.S., when you pay taxes, you have long-term capital gains tax and short-term capital gains tax. Short-term capital gains tax is just treated as ordinary income. So I'm not going to even worry about any long-term capital gains tax. So long-term capital gains are taxed at a lower rate, right? So the idea is, if you hold something for longer than a year, then you kind of get a break for that from the IRS, and you pay less taxes on it. But if I treat it all as ordinary income, all I got to do is, all right, what was it worth at the beginning of the year? What's it worth at the end of the year? The delta is my income, and then I just pay taxes on whatever the delta is. So that's what I'm doing for this year. Last year I had a couple of different wallets. I had one that I was doing some arbitrage testing on, an arbitrage bot, the same old arbitrage bot I had. And then I had some old stuff on Ethereum. So when Jupiter was launching, I was like, you know what? I'm all in on Jupiter. I was very, very bullish on Jupiter. So I had some old market making positions, I think on Arbitrum. So I at one point I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll go back to Ethereum, but I'll do it on a level 2 where it's cheaper to transact. So I went to Arbitrum. I was messing around on Arbitrum for a little while, and then when the Jupiter token was coming, I decided, you know what, let me just take all of that, put it on Solana, and I'm going to put it into Jupiter. So there was a wallet for that transfer. So I just end up with all these wallets for various different reasons. And then so for 2025, I decided, you know what, I'm going to keep this easy for my taxes next year. Put everything in one wallet, just treat it all as ordinary income, and it'll make life easy. And then I want to pay somebody, $7,000 to do my taxes for me.
Safe.
Yeah.
Got another quick question here, and then it'd be good just to get any questions from the audience, and then
Sure.
I have a couple of questions. But do you ever use just dynamic pools? Like, for example, love Sol, love Bonk, love Pingu, love Sol. what about just throwing it into a Pingu and Sol pool? It's not going to print crazy amounts, but you're going to accumulate both. What are your thoughts there?
The thing with the dynamic pools, so what happens with dynamic pools is basically all the fees are automatically go back into the pool. So what happens with the dynamic pool is it tends to be a more muted version of the token itself. So if you were to plot the price chart for a dynamic pool, the price chart is going to be highly correlated to the price of the token. It's going to move when the token moves up, the price of the dynamic pool is going to move up, but it's not going to move up as fast because of the impermanent loss. But the same thing when it moves down. When the price moves down, the price of the liquidity pool is going to move down in tandem. It's just not going to move down as hard, right? So when the token dumps, your value in the liquidity pool is going to move right with it, just not going to drop quite as much. I think in the long term, the accumulation effects should be better, and you should be, well, I don't know. It really depends. Like if it totally pumps, you're better just holding the token than putting it in the dynamic pool. I guess the same thing would go versus DLMM as well. But
Yeah.
if
No,
I'm
of
like
course.
if it's something I like, I would rather to put it in a wide position in the DLMM instead of putting it in a dynamic pool, because the good thing is that the fees don't compound. So you can choose to pull your fees out when the price pumps, then your fees are going to be worth a lot more. So then you're in better shape having put the liquidity in the DLMM than you would have been if you would have put it into the dynamic pool. So yeah, I would say, if you really like something and you're bullish on it, if you're really bullish, just hold the token. Don't even market make with it. But if you're going to market make with it, you may want to consider going into the DLMM and just go into a wide range and a high fee pool.
Awesome. I had one person from the orphans ask about Bonk and Sol, and my personal opinion was don't DLMM these ones because you're not looking at a crazy return. And Bonk tends to, we'll have a look at it based on Sol, but it tends to kind of go up, come down, and it has a very repeatable pattern.
Yeah.
And you can see it like every time. So, what happens in a week or 2 weeks? Probably the same thing. It is the favorite. It is the favorite. It is the token that saves Solana, I think.
Yeah.
So I personally don't think it's worth putting into this unless you're going in for like a day or something like that, just very quick, just put it in. But then there's so much TVL already in there. In fact, there's not actually that much. It's only $1 million. I mean, it's decent, but nothing crazy. I guess there is a lot here. There's a lot of different pairs with Bonk, but just Bonk and Sol. But what are your thoughts on this? I mean, because that's not decent. That's quite decent.
Yeah, it's not bad. I think I think there's just too much liquidity. So because there's so much liquidity, it doesn't see a lot of volatility relative to the amount of liquidity that you're going to provide. So one thing that I've been looking at lately, and actually I was talking to Michael Fang about this the other day, the founder of Hummingbot, is that there seems to be a sweet spot of both the age of the token and then the amount of liquidity that there is relative to the volume. And like Graphane has been in that sweet spot for a couple of weeks now, and it's been a really good token to market make on. And I want to say the ratio of TVL to volume is like, I'm sorry, it's the ratio of TVL to fully diluted market cap. So the amount of actual liquidity there is relative to the overall market cap of the token. So that ratio, I want to say, is about 2.5%, maybe less than 2.5%. And then I've been looking at some other tokens where it's like less than 2%. So that means like of all the tokens, less than 2% is providing liquidity. for the token. That seems to be kind of a sweet spot for a slightly better established token, right? So I'm not talking about one that just came out of the gate, not one that's been around only for a day or two, but when you get to like 3, 4, 5 days old, where it looks like the token is going to survive, it's continuing to see very good volume. When you look at that ratio of liquidity versus the total market cap being nice and low, that means that there's not a lot of people market making on it, so there's not a lot of places to go to buy the token, but there's still high demand for the token. That's kind of like the perfect situation to market make. So those are the kind of tokens that you want to get into, sort of that medium term strategy, the strategy that we talked about today, where you have a spot in a narrow range, and you're ready for the dump in case if it comes with a bid ask. Those are the kind of tokens that you want to run that sort of strategy on.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'll clip that one little bit, have a look at some examples and put them all into a video.
Okay, great.
But just maybe in closing, do you have any just tips if someone's starting out in DLMM? So like, what did you wish you knew? I don't know, 8 months ago or whenever it is you started.
That's a good question. That's a great question. Well, first and foremost, I would say, don't put anything in that you're not willing to lose, right? And be prepared to lose before you win, right? So, and I always tell people that in the boot camps, right? So, it's like learning to play any game, right? When you learn to play chess, you need to learn the rules first, right, before you can play. But just because you know the rules doesn't mean you're going to become a grandmaster, right? So, when you go through the boot camps, when you learn, through tutorials like this, don't expect to become an expert out of the gate. Don't expect to win right away, right? You're going to lose. You're going to lose initially, but learn from your mistakes, learn from those losses, take advantage of that. That would be the number one advice I would give to anyone is, number one, don't put any more than you're willing to lose. Number two, be prepared to lose before you win, and give yourself time and almost champion your losses, right? Like, and learn from your mistakes. What would I have told myself 8 months ago?
Well, like, if you've got a time machine, you can go back.
Yeah. Well, if I got a time machine, I would have told myself, buy Sol at
The time
at
machine only goes
150.
back 8 months.
Yeah, but I think I guess I would have told myself, maybe try a little bit more risky things, but don't go balls to the wall. Don't go all in on it. Experiment with very small amounts when you're doing the more risky stuff, but don't dismiss it completely, because there's definitely strategies to be had. There's ways to make money from those risky strategies, but there's always ways to mitigate those risks. And so get in there and try some of these things. I wish I had learned or tried a strategy like the one that I'm doing now sooner. I started doing it a few months ago, like with FWOG, and I did pretty well with it. And then I got wrecked with OR. Like I went in too much with OR. When OR dumped, I was, in way too narrow a range. And then I think it hit me hard. And I was like, ah. And then I stopped market making for a while. I didn't really do much. I did very, very, very safe stuff. And then I started getting into doing more risky stuff. But then I swung the pendulum too high the other way. I think I got into stuff that was way too risky, because I would put money in, and every time I would lose. My lose rate was very, very high. So, but like I tell everybody, prepared to lose before you win. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to the strategy I was doing before. When I got wrecked on OR, I was doing pretty good up to that point. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm kind of swung the pendulum back the other way. Not, I've got a good amount of my capital in relatively low risk stuff, but now I'm starting to put things into these slightly more risky positions, but risk managed, with this long bid ask on the bottom to catch it if it does dump. Also diversifying putting it in a lot of different tokens, so that way if one totally tanks, I've still got other winners in the game. So I'm feeling pretty good about this strategy that I'm in now. It's kind of going back to something that I think was working before. So I would have told myself, get ready to lose. You're gonna lose. When you lose, don't get discouraged. Get back on the horse. Try it again. And don't necessarily dismiss a strategy that was working for you previously that you went away from, because it could be that you just got unlucky on one token, right? If you go back to it and be consistent with it, you can get good wins. So I think that's what I would tell myself is like, get back on the horse, go back to being consistent, diversify your portfolio, don't put all your eggs in one basket, and you'll be a good shape. Yes, absolutely. Experience is the best teacher, without a doubt.
What about let's say you enter into a new token, AI Live and Sol, and then it drops down. Is there a certain point where you just like, okay, there's my stop loss, I've lost 20%, I'm out, convert back to Sol? Do you have any of those kind of strategies? I know in your system, your toothpaste strategy, you would actually be buying more if you're using that.
Right. Yeah. So I think with this strategy that we just showed you with AI Live, I guess if you went all the way out of the range, out of the bottom of the range, see, and this is where I struggle, and I struggle here. I struggle with stop losses. I struggle with knowing when to get out. So I don't know that I have a good answer for that, Seb, because I would probably hold it until it like dies, and then it's like nothing. I think part of my problem is I tend to hold too long a lot of times. So I think that's why this strategy, I think so far, is working pretty well for me, because nothing is pumped out of range because I've gone so far down with the bottom of my range. And the good thing is, I think if it does get all the way down there, you're actually not going to be that bad off. So I guess the question is, do I think it's going to get back to where it was before? So I probably what I would do is I would flip it to bid ask, flip it back the other way, get ready to hopefully get the pump. And if it doesn't happen, then I guess you're kind of screwed at that point. You're just, I guess I don't know when I would pull out of the position. I would probably take another. I would leave it there, see if it pumps. If it doesn't get there and drops like another, I don't know, 20, 30, 40%, then at that point I may just decide it's time to get out of this thing. So, cool. But I do struggle with that. I do struggle with figuring out when's the best to get out of the position. That's why now, if I go so far down that it's unlikely to get there, but if it does, I should be in much better shape than had I gone with a really tight position, right? So
awesome. Well, I appreciate that. It'd be good to know. Do you do any tracking as well, like a spreadsheet of like entered these tokens?
Yeah,
this one a win, this one was lost.
I use my P&L tool. So I developed a P&L tool to track profit and loss. I think now that we've got in Meteora, now you can remove liquidity for a range. I don't think my P&L tracker is working quite right for that. So I just need to find the time one of these weekends or one of these nights to sit down and try to fix that. But that's primarily what I've been using is that P&L tracker. Maddox Bug, actually, he also put together a really nice tool to see what your gains are for open positions. So that's another really nice tool. That's good to see how you're doing live, is looking at Maddox.
What is that tool called?
It's called, let me see if I can
There's so many community made tools, which is incredible.
I know, and there's a lot of great tools out there. Here, I'll drop it in the studio chat, and then you can pop it up. Oh wait, actually, hang on. Drop off the wallet address on it. Hang on.
Yeah, sure. I'll.
Yeah, there it is. And if you want to just pull that up.
Okay.
And then you know what? I have my bootcamp wallet that we could pop up. Hold on a second.
Yeah, sure. Share that one.
That was so that one I've got an open position from Spanish bootcamp, which I did this morning. It was actually the first Spanish bootcamp, and so I left. It's a very, very, very small position. I think there's like $4 worth of liquidity in it. But I told the class, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna leave this position open until class tomorrow, and then we'll see how we did. So I tried, kind of the same thing we talked about today. Read the chart, look to see where your support and resistance are, and set your position there. So I think it's the Sol position on the top there. So if you click on where it actually says Sol at the top, yep, and then do View Analytics, and then here you can see your live P&L for that position. So let's see how it's doing.
So does this factor in something like, let's say you claim the fees?
I think it does. Yeah. So yeah, so it'll tell you your total invested, total withdrawn, and then if you click show positions, and then I think there you can even do show operations, and you can see all the add liquidities. So you can see I've not done much here. I just opened the position, and now everything's just kind of sitting there.
Great.
But this is a really nice tool too.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. No one's asked any more questions. So what we can do is we'll end, and then in the next month or whatever, we can do another one. In the meantime,
Sure.
I'll try and do more interviews with people that have different strategies. And I'd be very keen to know, do you publicly, I mean, there's no expectation, but are you publicly trying to grow a particular balance into another balance? Like a 10K to 100K challenge or something like that, or you just taking it slow?
I'm taking it slow. I'm not doing anything publicly. I mean, I'm not that I don't mind sharing my wallet publicly, but my I don't claim to be a great DLMMer, but I do know the platform, and I do know how to use it. I can do some decent technical analysis, at least identifying support and resistance, which really is the most important thing for market making. But I'm still kind of working through my strategies. So I think I got a good feeling about this one. If things go really well with this one, I'll probably, probably start publicly talking more and more about this strategy. And let me see if I can find the link from Lincoln Logging on this. He posted it. They posted it on X the other day. I actually reposted it. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on. And actually, when I read his post, I was like, you know what? This was basically my strategy that was working a while ago, and I felt I really felt motivated to try it again and get back to it, and so I've been doing it, and it's been working pretty well. Let's see, here it is. Yeah, let me drop this one in for you, and I would share this one. Actually, I did share this one on Twitter, but you should do the same. It's a great strategy if you want to pull that up real quick.
Yeah, I added it into to news recently, and it's gonna make it into my videos.
Perfect. Yeah. This is a really great guide, and he does mention some tools I hear in here that I think maybe only the Goose DAO has. Like there's the Lincoln score or something like that. But the general premise is very, very similar to what I showed you guys today. Going in with a one-sided bid ask. The one thing that I've been adding to it lately was sort of throwing that 80% of my total allocation, I'm sorry, 20% of my total allocation, putting into that more narrow spot. Because what happened was I started doing this more or less to the T, right? I was started with a bid ask, and the market, the tokens just kept pumping, and I was like, man, I keep falling out of range. Like it would come into my range, I'd get some good fees, and then it would just pump back out. So then that's when I decided, all right, you know what? On top of this strategy, I'm going to put some liquidity up at the top, and then I'll put it into a decent range where I think it's going to be bouncing around for a little while. So that way, if it does pump out, at least I generated some fee, more fees during that period of time, and then I also get a little bit of capital appreciation when it pumps out of range as well.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Geek Lad.
Absolutely,
and
my
I
pleasure.
will
Thanks for
link
having me.
everything that you've mentioned in the links below, and we'll do more of these sessions with other people so you get familiar with Meteora. If you are Spanish speaking, day 2 of the boot camp is tomorrow, but you can go to Meteora and you can find the announcement channel. But I guess you're best off, if you're Spanish speaking, to watch day 1 first before you jump into day 2.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll have those recordings on. They'll be recorded by StreamYard, so you can watch them on StreamYard, and then you can also watch them on YouTube. So if you go to if you look for Meteora on YouTube, you'll see the recordings there as well.
I'll link Meteora as well.
Awesome.
Once again, I just want to put a big emphasis. I know learning Meteora is not like a walk in the park, but many of you will lose money if you're just chasing meme coins. If you could learn a skill in DeFi farming, every cycle gets far more difficult. Last cycle was far easier when it came to farming. Now it's not. But if you are good at Meteora, and we'll cover some people that are like really a bit riskier, but really have been doing it very well in the future. I think this is definitely a ticket to grow your portfolio, as long as you have a strategy, like Geek Lad has said, and stick to your strategy. So I'll end there. Thanks again for watching, and thanks for sharing your alpha, Geek Lad. Catch you in the next stream.
Bye, everybody.
Whoa. Yeah.